Hey guys, Chris Futzball Hikes. Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about some backpacking vocabulary, words and phrases you might not know. Okay guys, so there is actually a vocabulary specific to backpacking, lots of words and phrases you might not know, and it's maybe helpful to know some of these things when you get out there and you're talking to people, so you don't just stare blankly. So let's get right into these. Okay, so starting at the top of the alphabet, we have alpine. Alpine means basically above the tree line. So if you're going to an alpine lake, you are going to a lake that's basically above the tree line. There might be a few little trees there, but it's mostly going to be up in a mountain setting in the rocks and things. So that is alpine. Moving on. Alpine start. Alpine start is a phrase that originates with mountaineering, and basically it just means getting up before the sun to get started. So if I'm doing an alpine start to go to the top of Mount Hood from the parking lot, maybe midnight, that's an alpine start. Moving on to base weight. Base weight is, as far as I'm concerned, a nonsense term. What base weight means is the weight of all your items minus your consumables. So not counting water, not counting food, not counting your fuel, and that is base weight. A lot of people use that to brag about how light their pack is. It's also kind of a nonsense term because you're not going to go out there without food, water, and fuel. And so base weight is mostly for bragging. Also gives you kind of a base idea of what you're going to be carrying, but really you're going to be carrying all that stuff. So base weight, who really cares, right? Beaver fever. That is an old school term for giardia, and it means that, you drink from a stream and you get uncontrollable diarrhea that smells awful and you feel like crap. So beaver fever is giardia. Big three. Big three refers to the major items we've discussed before. Your backpack, your shelter, and your sleep system. So when people say big three in backpacking, that's what that means. Blaze. Not what you think. A blaze is usually a mark showing you the trail. So like on the Appalachian Trail, there are white marks along the trail. Those are blazes, and side trails have blue blazes. And so a blaze is a trail marker. Blowdown. Blowdown refers to the trees that come down in windstorms, and blowdown generally, as far as we're talking about, is trees across the trail. So when somebody says there's a lot of blowdown, it means you're going to be going over a lot of downed trees. Bonk. Well, if I'm hiking and I bonk, it just means I'm physically exhausted. So somebody says they are bonked or they bonk out there, just means they're out of energy. Break camp. Break camp means when you are picking up all your stuff and packing it up and leaving. So in the morning, after you've stayed the night and you are going back to the trailhead, you will break camp. That is what that refers to. Bushwhacking. Bushwhacking is going off trail through brushy areas. So if I am going out into the brush and have to pick my way through all this awful nonsense that's getting in my way, I am bushwhacking. Cairn. It is pronounced cairn. C-A-I-R-N. This is a pile of stones, a pile of rocks. And these mark the trail. In Utah, in the Canyonlands, often you're just hiking across stone or sand, and cairns mark the path. A lot of people like to stack rocks out there. Don't do that. That can be confusing. Cairns that exist are generally there for navigation, so you know you're going the right way. Camel up. To camel up means to drink a bunch of water at the start of your trip or at a place where you're refilling water, so you are getting as hydrated as possible so you can go further without getting a lot more water along the way. So when you start out, camel up. Cat hole. A cat hole is a hole that you dig and you poop in it. and then you cover it up. That's a cat hole. You're welcome. Moving on. To cliff out means to go along a pathway or a route and find that you have come to a cliff and you can go no further. So if you're off trail, you're taking a shortcut and suddenly see that you can neither go up nor down because of a cliff, you are cliffed out. It's happened to me a few times, and yeah, it's super fun. Cold soaking. Cold soaking is a disgusting practice where you take dehydrated or freeze-dried food and you add water and you let it rehydrate without heating it or cooking it. And it's disgusting. And maybe it's for you. Cowboy camp. To cowboy camp just means to sleep under the stars with no tent, and really not much more to say about that. That's cowboy camp. Ditty bag. Ditty bag. It's another nonsense term. It's a bag you put little stuff in. It's a word I don't use. Yeah, moving on. Dispersed camping. Dispersed camping means camping in an area that is not a specific campsite. So dispersed camping is finding your own spot in an appropriate place. And if you don't know what an appropriate place is, watch my video on finding your camp spot. Dispersed camping. Dry bag. A dry bag is a waterproof sack. Usually they have a roll top, and they're great for food bags or if you're going on a rafting trip or something. So having a dry bag is good to keep your stuff dry. Yeah. Dry camping. Dry camping just means camping somewhere where there isn't a water source. So if you're not near a lake or a stream when you camp and you can't get water, you are at a dry camp. Exposure or exposed. Exposure generally refers to being up in a high area where there's no real protection to the side, and you could fall down and die or hurt yourself. So if I'm along a ridge line and I say there's a lot of exposure, it means that there are sheer drop-offs. Exposure can also refer to basically not having shade or tree cover and being exposed to the sun. So two uses there. FKT it's not pronounced fuck it. It stands for fastest known time. Most likely not something that's going to be relevant to you, but it's something you might hear out there or on boards or wherever. So FKT means fastest known time. Fly. That word has lots of meanings. For us, it just means the rain fly, the covering on your tent that keeps the rain out. So if you put up your fly, you're putting the cover on your tent. Yeah. Footprint in backpacking refers to a ground cloth that you put down under your tent. And some people love them to protect the bottom of the tent, and some people hate them because they're extra weight. You can decide what's for you, but that is what a footprint refers to. Ford, not a brand of car in our vocabulary. Ford means to cross a river without a bridge. So when you ford a stream, you are walking through the stream to the other side, usually in a shallow, slow area if possible. Game trail. Not a trail to Monopoly, but rather a trail that is created by the wildlife out there, usually deer, mountain goats, things like that. So often if you're off trail and just exploring, sometimes you can follow a game trail, and it's a little easier than bushwhacking. Glissade. I hope I'm saying it right because I don't want you to learn it wrong, but I've heard glissade. What it means is basically when you're coming down in the snow, you're kind of sledding on your butt. And on Mount Adams in a few weeks, I'm hoping to glissade down the top part of the mountain because it's kind of famous for that. So if you hear somebody saying they glissade, means they're sliding down the snow, whether on purpose or not. Gram weenie. Kind of an offensive term for people who are ultra light and count every single gram to shave weight and cut their toothbrushes in half and cut off tags, things like that. So we refer, well, some people refer to them as gram weenies. And I'm not going to show you my toothbrush. Guidelines. There's got to be a joke in that, right? Anyway, if there is, leave it below. Yeah, put it in the comments. Anyway, guidelines are the lines that come out from your tent to keep it taut. So you've got your regular stakes on the corners. The guidelines are the cords that come out to keep it nice and tight. Hiker box. A hiker box, usually these are along the long trails like the Pacific Crest Trail, Appalachian Trail, and these are boxes at different stops where people just get rid of stuff they don't want and they can pick up stuff that other people left behind. It's really cool, really helpful, and probably not relevant to you. If you're watching my videos so you can hike the Pacific Crest Trail, you're probably doomed to fail. Hiker midnight. Hiker midnight basically refers to like 9 o'clock at night. It's, you know, it gets dark. There's not a lot to do. And usually people go to sleep fairly early. So 8, 9 p.m., depending on the season, that's what they mean when you hear somebody referring to hiker midnight. Nero. A Nero is also one of these terms used mostly for long distance trails. A Nero is a day where you hike just maybe 1 or 2 miles or just very few, and you spend a lot of time just chilling out, maybe in a trail town or maybe just in a camp. So that's what people mean when they say they're taking a Nero. NoBo. N-O-B-O. NoBo's another long distance term, and again, probably not relevant to you, but you may hear it out there, especially if you're section hiking like the Pacific Crest Trail or whatever. NoBo means northbound, so alternatively, SOBO would be southbound. So in hiking the Grand Canyon, met a hiker, asked if I was NoBo. Confused me completely until I realized she thought I was hiking the Arizona Trail, which goes through the Grand Canyon. But if you hear NoBo, that's what it means. Pass. No, we're not moving on to the next one. A pass is a opening area, the lowest point when you're going over mountain ridges. So a pass is a place where you can go over the mountain ridges without, you know, mountain climbing necessarily. Whatever. It's a pass. It's a pass. Post-holing. Post-holing means when you're hiking in the snow and your feet break through and you go up to like your knee or your crotch. That's post-holing. It's super fun. Yeah. It's a good reason to just hike in the springtime and summer, maybe. Yeah. Puffy. Yeah, I hope a lot of you didn't come to this video because you're following the news, right? So puffy for us refers to a puffy jacket. So a down jacket, generally, we refer to as our puffy. It can also be, you know, not down, but puffy. Moving on. Scrambling. It's what we do with mountain house eggs. No, that's throw them in the garbage. Scrambling means basically when you are going up a steep hill, mountain, and you're to the point where you basically have to use your hands to keep moving up. So that's what we refer to when we say scrambling. I'm getting there, I swear. I guess you could probably look these things up. All right, you guys still with me? Do I need to like show a goofy video for just a second here to keep your interest in? Okay, thank you for still being here. Appreciate you guys. Scree. Scree can be related to scrambling. Scree is small rock on slopes that inevitably, when you're going up scree, you are taking one step forward and sliding 2 steps back. So scree is awful for climbing. It's fantastic for coming down. Ooh, we should talk about that in another video. So anyway, moving on. Shoulder season. So what this refers to is nothing about your anatomy. It just means the times to go hiking that are not summertime perfect time. Shoulder season essentially means spring and fall. So if people are talking about the equipment they use or that they're just going out in shoulder season, that's basically what they mean. Slug. Also could refer to mountain house scrambled eggs, or it just is a very difficult hike. You're a lot of times in the mud or just a lot of steep stuff. That section of your hike is just a slog. It's a fun word to use. Take it with you. Spur trail. Spur trail is a trail that goes off from the main trail. So if you're hiking along and there is a spur trail to a waterfall, that just means a trail that goes off the main trail. You'll hike down the spur trail, see your thing, come back, and then you're back on the main trail. So that's a spur trail. Stealth camp. Sounds like an awesome sci-fi thing, but it just means camping out of sight. Sometimes it can mean questionably whether or not if it's technically legal to camp where you are, but often it just means you're finding a spot, dispersed camping, and it's out of sight, and yeah, it's just not one of the main spots that's designated for camping. Talus. Talus is like scree, only bigger. So talus is also on slopes and makes you slide down a lot, and it's a little bigger and harder on your ankles. So it just refers to a bunch of rocks on a slope. 3-season. When people talk about 3-season tents, 3-season sleeping bags, they're talking about every season but winter. So a 3-season tent is fine in the shoulder seasons and in the summer, and not necessarily good for the winter time. So a 4-season tent just includes winter. So there you go. Trail angels and trail magic. These are also specific to the long trails generally. And trail angels are people who help out those hikers. Often they will leave water caches. There's a word for us. A cache is a place where you store things. So people make cache food, cache water. It just means you're setting it up ahead of time to be picked up later. But back to trail angels, these are the people who help them out, sometimes having a barbecue, like a roadside where a trail crosses, or giving people rides into town. So those are trail angels, and trail magic is the wonderful things they do for those hikers. So if you hear those terms, that's what it means. If you meet those people, thank them. Vestibule. Probably the hardest word on the list to say correctly. The vestibule is the area outside of your tent, but under the fly, where you can store stuff. So a tent with a big vestibule has an area that is covered by the rain fly, but not inside the tent. And that's what that means. Wild camping. Wild camping is an awesome phrase because it is specific to Great Britain, and I love all of my viewers in Great Britain. Thank you guys for watching. I absolutely love your stuff. Stephen J. Reed, fantastic. You guys have some great guys over there. I'm going to put a link to a couple of guys I watch on YouTube in Ireland and Great Britain. They're fantastic. They're almost everything I watch right now. So anyway, going back to wild camping. Wild camping is basically dispersed camping in Great Britain. It's a much better word. Dispersed camping is so wild camping, right? And in Scotland, I guess you can do wild camping anywhere. So it's fantastic. But again, it just means, camping wherever and leaving no trace. And a 0 day. 0 day, again, on the long trails, that's a day where you hike no miles. And so, if you want to be like those guys and talk like those guys, and you go backpacking, set up a tent, and you stay for a few days, and somebody comes along, just let them know you're taking a 0 day. You're resting up. You're not hiking any miles today. You're super cool. Anyway, so those are some words and phrases that you guys might run across out there if you're new to backpacking, and you might not know what they mean. So hopefully that's helpful. If it's not helpful, okay, that's, at least you weren't washing dishes for the last several minutes because you were watching this, right? So that's good. So lots of words and phrases. I am sure I forgot. I would love to hear what you guys have. Add them down below. And let's see. I would like to learn something new. Other people want to learn. And so a lot of that comes from the comments. So appreciate that. And for those of you watching that aren't in the United States, because a lot of you out there that do watch this, thank you so much for watching. And I acknowledge that we're a little ethnocentric over here in America. And so I would love to hear some of the words and phrases that are normal to you in backpacking and wild camping that maybe we don't use over here. And so please leave a comment below. I appreciate you guys watching. If you like this stuff, consider subscribing to the channel. So I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.